What's up, my dudes? Supercross 2, the official video game rain mode. So I wanted to come on in here and talk about this. So basically, you guys know this is normally a pretty big thing that they push in these milestone games. Their whole like rain mode, wet track, you know what I'm talking about. They usually get on there before their game's released and really talk about it quite extensively and make it like a big pillar of their next game, right? And really, when I look at a lot of the Supercross 2 stuff that's been announced and put on there, there hasn't been a whole lot talking about the rain mode there. I mean, they might have said, like, you know, slight improvements to the rain mode or something along those lines. Nothing crazy, though. It's not like anything big. So, I mean, I think it's interesting to certainly come in here and talk about this because I think with the milestone games, and some of you guys that think I'm a milestone hater, this will totally shut your ass up. I think they've probably done the rain mode better than any other motocross game has ever done a rain mode in any sort of motocross game out there. I mean, it's really that good, I would say. Now, I mean, certainly it's good and to certain extents and stuff, but I mean, I think what makes it so good is just not only the way it feels and all that, but the way it intertwines graphically with everything. That's what makes it seem so good, because you're seeing the rain, the wet track mode, and you know the milestone games having the super modern era graphics in comparison to some of these old ass motocross games that we play out here frequently, aka Reflex, aka MX Simulator, stuff like that. You know, a game like this, it's got the graphic capabilities. It really brings you into the immersion of the mud a lot more, I feel like. So just having the, you know, the way of the mud kind of flying all over the screen, the rider getting muddy, the slick shine spots on the track, and the rain effect on the screen and all that kind of stuff looking pretty realistic. All of that, I feel, is, you know, what makes some of the mud fillings in these milestone games feel so good. You know, it's not only the actual physical part of it, but the graphical integration of it makes everything kind of come together. But as far as like how they could improve it and that whole side of it, I mean, I think it's pretty good on certain tracks. I think that it's just all in kind of balancing. You know, you want the mud tracks to have a slicker feeling to them. You want them to have, you know, kind of, you know, probably a little bit more like a friction style feeling, so you can't get quite up to speed, up to pace. And so it makes it feel different than the other tracks. And I think they've done that to an okay extent. I think it probably is slacking a little bit on certain tracks as far as the slickness of it. Like, the tracks really don't feel slick. The mud tracks on the first Supercross game, they don't really feel like slick. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose traction here. You guys know riding on mud in real life, that'll make your butthole pucker up, boy. Like, it's kind of a balls to the wall or nothing. Like, you lose your front end in every corner. You're sliding over doing scrubs when you don't even know how to scrub over jumps and shit like that. You know, that's how real life mud riding is. But mud can be all different kinds of ways. You know, you can have slick mud. You can have deep mud that's not super slick, but you're just like clogs everything up. You can barely move because the mud sticks to everything, and it gets super, you know, super clumpy mud like that. I've rode in a lot of different mud conditions in real life, raced in mud conditions and stuff like that. But for the most part, most mud tracks have like a slickness to them, you know. Real easy to lose your front end in the corners, real easy to just slide over in the corners, stuff like that. That's why it's so much more sketchy hitting bigger jumps and stuff in the mud. So I think that's one aspect I think that they could improve on as far as the actual filling of it. Is that making it just feel a little bit more slick, you know, have a little bit more of a sketchy feeling to it, a little bit more like, oh, can't just be on the gas wide open turning in a corner, like I'm going to actually slide a little bit here. I think that'd be cool, and maybe not quite as much friction on some of the tracks. I feel like the way their mud system is in the first game, it just kind of feels more like a deep, sticky mud more than it does actually slick mud. So it just makes it where you just feel like you're cut down on power, and that's about it. So, you know, it just kind of feels like you're on a 250 even though you're on a 450 in the mud in the game. So it just makes everything a little bit harder to hit. But, yeah, I mean, as far as, you know, the way the terrain deformation system and all that is in the game, I don't think it's terrible as far as for the mud. Now, when it comes to normal dirt in the game, yeah, it's certainly slacking in that sense. Not very good in that sense. But just the way it is where it's like more of a visual thing than it is a physically changing the track thing, and it just kind of makes like a visual, more lines on the track, more kind of like rutted places that you've been on, but they're not really making hardcore ruts. You guys know that's how these milestone games are. That actually works fairly decently for mud tracks, because that's kind of how mud tracks are. So I think they just kind of got lucky in that sense of like just the way their terrain deformation system on all the tracks happens to be in their games. I feel like it just seems to fit the mud filling the best, so it just works out in their mud, you know, because you don't really want a mud track with like hardcore terrain deformation ruts that really grab you in the corner. That wouldn't make any sense. So it just seemed to kind of work out for them in that type of degree. But one thing I really wanted to see, and this is a pretty big deal here, one thing I really wanted to see in the like Supercross 2 and games advancing on from that point is not just rain effects like they have, but also all kinds of weather effects. I think this could be a prime opportunity for Milestone to really separate their games from some of the other games when they go, because they already have kind of like the rain effect, rain mode, really different from any other motocross, supercross game out there. I think if they go in there and make like a true snow effect mode in their game, it's kind of like the rain mode, but obviously snow gets deeper, maybe gets deeper on the track over time from you riding on it. It's got a slick feeling. That would be a cool little addition, kind of addition to have in there. But not only that, but you think about having like a rain mode in a motocross game, but why can't you have like a super hot, dry, almost like dusty sandstorm style weather effect in the game? Not like, I'm saying Mad Max style sandstorms. I'm not talking about crazy stuff like that, but just trying to get you in the mind vibe of what I'm talking about here. Have like a 100 degrees Arizona outdoor supercross track or just outdoor motocross track or something like that, and it's just super hot. You've got you got dust coming off the back of the bikes instead of mud. You've got dust coming up on the screen, kind of giving you that effect. You've got basically where the track gets super dry, and you've got like a totally different feeling on that track than the mud tracks and the normal standard brownie mix dirt traction tracks in the game, like what you would call like normal prep tracks in the game. Basically they could have it to where they've got that super dry style blue groove, and it's got like where not a whole lot of friction because everything's super dry, but you can lose your front end easy on it. The ruts get really the blue groove ruts get really small, more so janky style, like really choppy style, how super dry tracks get in real life. I've rode on a lot of those as well. They got like a 1,000% different feeling than just normal standard tacky dirt, and obviously totally different feeling than mud tracks in the game. So it'd be cool to see that sort of variation, kind of how like they make the mud tracks in their game, but just implement that into every other kind of weather effect and track design that you can have in the game. Being super dry, blue groove style track, but make it to where it's actually dust coming off the bikes, dust hitting up on the screen, all that kind of stuff, and then making the snow like a totally different feeling. I think that'd be something they could really integrate into the game and make it cool like that. And I don't know. I just think that would be interesting if they sort of went down that road. And I'm kind of trying to think of some other weather design effects and stuff like that. You could have like a super windy track or something, which kind of goes along with the dry. They could have it like super windy. Maybe it blows you over on some jumps and stuff like that. You can really see like the dust kind of flying up. Maybe it affects your vision a little bit, kind of like how the mud does. Like you can see it just all over the screen, rain all over the screen like it is. Now, I certainly think that they could improve upon the rain effect hitting the screen. It doesn't really even look like it's hitting the screen like you're riding in it. It looks more like you're just having slow water driplets kind of dropping on a window pane or something. That's basically what it looks like, when it should look more like, you're actually kind of more so spraying water up on the screen, not like spraying it, but like, how it is when you're riding in rain. It doesn't just look like someone's like barely dropping a little droplet of water on a window pane. It looks like you're actually running into water. So I think they're kind of a little off on that sort of effect, kind of how like the Forza games, stuff like that, have the whole rain mode where the rain's kind of showing up on the screen. Let me get in first person here. But you can kind of see it right here. There's really no effect of it looking like you're actually like riding into the rain with any sort of speed. It just looks like the rain's kind of somewhat slowly catching on your screen. It's not really like kind of slow fall catching on your screen. It's not really like you're riding into the rain. So it'd be cool if they could kind of improve upon that a little bit. Maybe add some thunder in the background, lightning in some tracks. You know, maybe the wind gusts can pick up dynamically on some of your rain tracks and stuff like that. So I think that would be a cool way for them to go about doing it, as well as kind of making the weather effects a little bit more dynamic, so you could have like the super dry track and stuff like that, and at the beginning of it maybe it's not super windy and the dust is not crazy, but then midways through the main event of the race or whatever kind of race you're running, it gets like super windy and you start blowing over on the jumps and the dust starts going crazy and you get a lot more dust up on your screen. And then that'd probably be cool if they could add a tear-off system and you only have so many tear-offs in a race. That would be sick if they start kind of going down that road, and maybe the rain can pick up at certain times and it starts splashing on the track, actually making the track more and more wet as you dynamically go through the race. You know, there's a lot of advancements they could make to their weather systems and how they affect the race dynamically, because it doesn't really seem to be all that dynamic right now. It just seems to be like if you turn the rain mode on, the rain mode's on. Like, yeah, you dynamically terrain deform the track a little bit, but it's not like the track's getting any wetter or drier or anything like that, you know. So that'd be cool to see all that. Maybe like if it's snowing on a track or something, maybe the snow can pick up or something cool like that. So either way, I just wanted to get on here kind of, you know, chat about some of my ideas and opinions for some of the, you know, maybe Supercross 2 or Supercross 3, the game or something like that. And for all motocross games out there, not just this one, I think it'd be cool to see all of them advance. But I just think it's interesting. I think this is one of the games that's probably the closest to putting something like that in, just simply because of how they've done their mud effect in the game and rain mode effect and all that. So I think you're probably more likely to see that than you are like anything else, really, I would say. So either way, boys, I mean, that's my take on it, and hopefully they can get some cool stuff like that in there. But that's the sort of advancements that would really make me happy to see and really be like, wow, now they're really doing something. You know, like a full-blown dry track mode, and the on-track feels completely different. The way it builds the roughness, the terrain deformation feels totally different than it does on a mud track or a sand track or a, you know, a brownie mix, standard dirt, woodland track or something like that. And then all the different kinds of fillings of the tracks can feel totally different, similar to how they are in Reflex. Be cool to see all that. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.